Well, it's official. Xbox players are coming to Helldivers 2, and you could be next. One of the biggest questions that I see is, what do we do when we arrive on Helldivers 2? Helldivers 2 is not the easiest game to just jump into. From the types of enemies to strategies used, and not to mention Arrowhead, the developers of Helldivers 2, has been supporting the game since launch, constantly adding the many Warbonds. To date, we have, let me just count real quick here, 15 Warbonds, each of which coming with weapons, victory poses, player cards, armor sets, player titles, just a whole host of things that can give you all kinds of tools to use. I've been told that the players that get the Gold Edition, the Premium Edition, hold on, let me look that up, Super Citizen Edition, will get access to the original starting Warbond and receive a token to redeem for one free Premium Warbond. With 14 choices to make, they're at a loss. I myself am a Helldiver. And let me give you my opinion on what you should probably pick for your Premium Warbond. Using this handy dandy tier list, because people love a tier list. So first off, right off the bat, you have to get Helldivers Mobilize. So I'm gonna put that right there at S tier. So the Helldivers Mobilize Warbond is where every good Helldiver starts. This not only has the most pages for any Warbond, but this includes just about everything that a good starting Helldiver needs in their kit. So when the new players ask me what Warbond to focus on, I always tell them, go to the Helldivers Mobilize Warbond first and unlock all of that content. All of the things in that Warbond are very good and will help you for a long time. Except maybe that smoke grenade. I don't know about that one. But that still leaves 14 more choices. Where do we go from there? To simplify things, I'll be going through these in chronological order, in the order that they were released, okay? Starting with the first Premium Warbond, Steeled Veterans. So Steeled Veterans gives us several great options for gear right off the bat. You've got your heavy armor penetrating sidearm. This thing is an absolute beast. It only holds 6 shots, being a revolver, but it used to be the case that you had to load each round individually. That's been changed with an update, so now you have a speed loader, so that if you empty the entire cylinder on your enemies, you can reload all 6 shots at once, greatly reducing the reload time for this weapon. It's so good. That first page also gives you the first of your kind of crowd control style weapons with the Liberator Concussive. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's nothing to sneeze at, and it does stagger just about every enemy type, except for, you know, the super heavy stuff like tanks and stuff like that. It'll keep the enemies back from your squad, giving everyone ample time to deal with the threat. So if you like a more supportive playstyle, that's a pretty good choice. This is the only Warbond that gives you the servo-assisted armor passive, where it increases the throwing range, not only just for grenades, but for stratagems as well. And let me tell you, you spend a lot of time throwing stratagems in this game. Yeah, so normal you can lob a stratagem about 50, 55 meters. This gets you closer to about 70, which doesn't sound like much, but when you can't get into an enemy base for some reason, or there's a bug hole just outside of range, this can really make a difference. The downside is that if you're not wearing a servo-assisted armor, and you get really used to that range, it's really hard to switch off to something else. So it can end up being a crutch. It should also be mentioned that every armor in this Warbond has servo-assisted armor passive. Moving on to the other pages of the Warbond, you also get access to the Breaker Incendiary, which is an automatic shotgun, which is awesome, with a drum magazine that fires incendiary shells. Oh yeah. The downside being its fairly low capacity. I mean, it's got to balance somehow. You also get the Incendiary Grenade, which is pretty good for enemies in a choke point, bugs coming out of bug holes, things like that. Especially since they've increased the duration of the fire effect on the ground. And the last page gives you the Jar 5 Dominator. Which is basically the holy bolt gun. Honestly, I think Steeled Veterans is a really great choice. That's why I'm going to put it in the A tier. The next Warbond that we saw was Cutting Edge. Where Steeled Veterans introduced an armor passive, we have the same thing for Cutting Edge. That passive being Electrical Conduit, which provides 95% resistance to arc damage. What is arc damage, you might ask? Arc damage is basically electrical damage. Currently, there's very few instances of enemies using arc damage, and it's only from the Illuminates. With the Floating Watcher, the Towering Harvester, and their lightning towers that they have placed around their bases. Helldivers have access to a couple different types of arc damage. The Arc Thrower is unlockable through your ship terminal as a support weapon, and there's the Tesla Tower that you can throw as a area denial that will zap enemies and any friendlies that wander into range of it. This thing does not care. It will zap anything. The other great addition to this Warbond is the LAS-16 Sickle. On page 5 of Helldivers Mobilize, we had access to the LAS-5 Scythe with the Beam designation. This fires a continuous laser at a good range to do consistent damage to your enemies. As long as you held on the trigger, that laser would fire, which you can overheat. It's a solid weapon. The Sickle is very similar, but it doesn't fire a continuous beam. It fires bursts of laser, like a laser machine gun basically. Notice the lack of beam in the description. Only has light penetration, and it can overheat, but I do enjoy using this quite a bit. Further on into the Warbond, we have some other notable options. The Stun Grenade being a very good tactic if you're overwhelmed. You throw one of those and you can run away and regroup. There's the Punisher Plasma, which does take some skill, but it can be very devastating in the right hands. A new sidearm, which is a pistol version of the Scythe, called the Dagger, and the Arc 12 Blitzer. It's like a electric shotgun. It's close range, but it does have a pretty decent amount of stun damage, so you can hold enemies at bay while you zap them. All in all, I rather like Cutting Edge because of its good variety of weapons, its solid choices, the Stun Grenade, and its unique perk, which does come in handy. I'm going to put Cutting Edge up in the A tier. Next, we've got Democratic Detonation. Do you like explosions? Hell yeah. That's what this Warbond is all about. This Warbond doesn't really have its own passive. Two of the armors use the Engineering Kit, which gives you more grenade capacity, which is really nice for this, because it also gives you Thermite Grenade, which is a sticky grenade that's labeled as anti-tank. I believe it does 4,000 or 5,000 damage. The other passive it gives you is Fortified. That just gives you reduction to recoil and resistance to explosive damage. Now, we've already covered the Thermite Grenade, which actually might be worth the cost of the Warbond by itself. I mean, I've used the Thermite Grenade for just about everything. The Chargers, Bile Titans, enemy buildings, tanks, harvesters, any sort of big enemy that you don't want to see anymore. Stick a thermite on that thing, gone. Once the fuse burns out, it takes a couple seconds. So thermite is pretty great, I'm not gonna lie. You've got the Adjudicator, which is not a bad assault rifle. It's got good damage, not bad recoil, and a pretty good fire rate, if only the capacity was a little higher. Not to mention medium armor pen, which is pretty rare in the primary. The only downside is its fairly low capacity at 30 rounds. I find myself running out of ammo quite a bit using this thing, but it is pretty solid. On page 2, we get the Eruptor. This is a single-fire, bolt-action, scoped rifle that fires a single explosive round. It says heavy armor penetration, but it might glance off of tanks and hulks and things like that if you don't hit them in the sweet spot, behind the turret or in the back of the Hulk. Still, this thing is really great. It closes bug holes, blows up fabricators, takes out groups of enemies, and the explosion does have a shrapnel effect. And finally, we get to page 3. Page 3 has two really awesome entries. You've got Exploding Crossbow, which is kind of like the Eruptor, but has a shorter range and only medium penetration. It's also higher damage. It does have a drop since it fires a projectile, If you can play around with that and get good at it, you can take out groups of enemies. This thing closes bug holes, destroys bunkers, the whole bit. And it being one-handed gives you the option to use it with ballistic shields. The other thing being the grenade pistol. Now, the grenade pistol was my go-to for the longest time. Most people don't even use their secondary, but they'll bring the grenade pistol to do things like close bug holes, destroy fabricators, open up containers, that kind of thing. It's a solid S tier secondary. And with so many great options, I need to put this Warbond up at S tier. It's really that good. Now, is everything A tier, S tier? So far, trust me, there's some real stinkers in there. We'll get to those. The Polar Patriots. Now, Rental Penguin here. I had pretty high hopes for Polar Patriots, let me tell you. All in all, it's not a bad Warbond. Again, it doesn't have its own unique passive. The first page gets you the Tenderizer, which is a pretty good assault rifle, with a high damage, even though it's only light armor penetration. A pretty A-tier weapon, actually. The second page, though, gets one of my favorite grenades, the Incendiary Impact Grenade. And then we have the SMG-72 Pummeler, which is very similar to the Liberator Concussive that we saw in Helldivers Mobilize back in the day. But this is also a one-handed weapon, again, allowing you to use this as a primary while you're running around, while carrying an objective, or using a ballistic shield. It also gives you that kind of crowd control aspect, pushing the bugs back, stopping the stalkers from eating your friends, or you. It's actually a pretty solid weapon. Page 3 gives you two decent weapons, the Purifier and the Verdict. The Purifier is an energy weapon. It has the charge up trait, allows you to charge up a shot to do good damage to an area and stun things, while also explosive, which means it does good damage against anything below heavy armor. It used to be that was the only fire mode, but it's been changed to where you can now rapid fire that thing in like a semi-auto style. It's honestly a pretty good gun. The Verdict, though, it's nothing special. It's similar to a heavier pistol. It is medium armor penetration, the capacity of 10, and a 125 damage. It's not bad. It is solid. It doesn't get as much love because there's better options out there. I mean, you've got the Senator, you've got the grenade pistol. Why would you pick this over those? I don't know. All in all, I don't think there's really anything in this Warbond that you really need to have. Everything, I mean, there's same or better options for just about everything in there. It's not bad. It's just not outstanding. I'll put it B for now. I might change my mind later. Like I said, it's not bad. It's just not great. Viper Commandos. Now, we've got a jungle theme going on here with the shirtless sleeves guys, leading to a new armor perk, something unseen in the past few Warbonds, called Peak Physique. Increases melee damage by 100% and improves weapon handling with less drag on weapon movement. Now, that second part isn't too important, but that first part is what everyone got real excited for when we saw the teaser for it. Suddenly, everyone was like, oh, we gotta start using melee builds. We're gonna run in there and start hitting people with our guns and do all kinds of crazy damage. Turns out it wasn't really all that. With Peak Physique being, you know, kind of mid, what else did it have? Well, the first page gets you the Liberator Carbine, which was basically a really high rate of fire Liberator, which is actually not bad. It just had a lot of recoil. Had a longer magazine, more recoil. And at the time, we didn't have the weapon customization to fix the recoil. Well, I could just use a regular Liberator and not have that problem. Now, page 2 gets you access to the Bushwhacker. Bushwhacker is a sidearm shotgun. It's actually pretty great. It's one-handed, of course, light armor pen, but it has a capacity of 3. It's a triple barrel shotgun. It's pretty great. Is it useful? If you're getting surrounded by enemies, you need a shotgun blast to clear the way, this can be your way out. Not bad. It's a pretty useful tool. Now, and page 3 gets you the throwing knife, which is interesting. I mean, flavor-wise, it's pretty great for flavor. And it does do medium penetration, so it can take out the Hive Guardians, Devastators, stuff like that. But so does other grenades, right? It's not all that useful, and it has better options. Honestly, if you love the idea of throwing knives, go for it. But I think there's just better options for your throwable. Again, in here, there's not really anything that's stand out and screams, you need this, you know? So as much as I love the test of conviction, I'm gonna put Viper Commandos in the B tier. Freedom's Flame. Hey, do you like fire? Do you like burning your enemies? Ha 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 ha! This might be the Warbond for you. Freedom's Flame gave us all high hopes for fire-only loadouts. And it did not disappoint. It gave us access to a new armor passive. Inflammable provides a 75% damage resistance to fire, allowing bearer to rest assured in their inflammability. Now for the actual content of the Warbond, page 1 gets us the light armor, which actually looks pretty great, and the SG-451 Cookout Shotgun. This thing has a really good damage, a solid capacity, light armor pen, it's incendiary, and it has a decent stagger. This is honestly one of my go-to weapons when I'm feeling a little spicy. Now the light penetrating is not that bad because the incendiary effect does do a pretty good amount of damage to keep the enemy busy while you set them on fire and kill them that way. This is a really great weapon in my opinion. Now, page 2 gets us a flamethrower primary, the Flam 66 Torture. It's basically a slightly toned down version of the flamethrower support weapon. So if you like the idea of shooting a flamethrower, but you want to have access to a different support weapon, like a recoilless rifle for instance, this gives you that option. It has just about the same range as the flamethrower, and it only does slightly less damage. For when you've got to burn the enemy, this is a solid option. And on the final page, we have some cosmetics again, and the P72 Crisper, which is a pistol variant of the flamethrower. It actually has the same damage per second as the Torture, it just has less capacity. Again, most players don't use their secondary for much, so this is a solid backup if you need to set people on fire. Honestly, the Cookout, the Torture, and the Crisper are some pretty solid options. That's why you're going to the A tier. I thought about putting you in the B tier, but people just love burning things, and this gives you the options to do some theme builds. Plus, aside from the Superstore, that's the only place to get the Fire Resistance armor perk. Speaking of theme builds, Chemical Agents. Again, a unique perk, Advanced Filtration, 80% resistance to gas damage and effects. Perfect for those times that you call in those gas strikes a little too close to yourself. We've also got the new gas grenade, which is caustic and explosive. They had to explicitly state that this was going to affect the automatons as well as terminids. The gas grenade also has a decent detonation force, allowing it to destroy bug holes and fabricators if you throw them inside. Plus, the gas has a kind of confusion effect on enemies, while also applying that damage over time gas effect, meaning that if you throw it into a whole mess of bugs, the bugs will suddenly start walking different directions and attacking wildly. Automatons will also be affected by this, attacking and shooting in random directions. The rest of the Warbond, however, didn't really excite me too much. Page 2, you get access to the medium armor and the sterilizer, which is kind of like the flamethrower, but for gas. It allows you to add that confusing burning gas effect, but it doesn't really do as much damage as you think it would. And page 3 gives you the stim pistol, which allows you to heal teammates at distance, and you get the guard dog dog breath, which is basically going to be shooting the sterilizer for you. It can be handy, sure, but I think there might be some better options out there. All in all, I think the best thing in this Warbond is probably the gas grenade, with dog breath being a decent runner-up. Like I said before, sometimes there's just better options for your choices out there. And I don't think that just the gas grenade or the dog breath is gonna justify your choice of what Warbond to get. And so for that reason, you're going to B tier. It's pretty niche. Maybe even C tier. Actually, let's put you in C for chemical. With only one, maybe two really useful things in that Warbond, that's about where it belongs. I actually like the idea of a crowd control grenade that does a good damage. But like I said, there's better stuff. The Truth Enforcers. the Halt shotgun, the SG-20 Halt. The SG-20 is a shotgun that is unique for having 2 different fire modes. It's capable of delivering stun rounds that deal light armor penetration, but also act like little mini stun grenades that keep entire crowds of enemies disoriented and stationary, allowing you to do a quick getaway or for your squad to recover and kill them. The other firing mode fires a tight grouping of medium armor penetrating projectiles, which actually do really good damage. Some players found it difficult at first to switch fire modes to go to what they needed when they needed it. But with enough practice and being familiar with your tools, you're able to overcome this quite easily. The downside is that even though it says capacity 16, it splits it as 8 of the stun rounds and 8 of the damaging rounds. Now, page 2 gives you access to the armor that has its own unique perk. Unflinching. Helps prevent Helldivers from flinching when hit. Provides a greater armor rating. Provides a higher armor rating. Markers placed on the map will generate radar scans every 20 seconds. I actually like the flinch reduction, because there's been plenty of times when I'm scoped in on a target and something else hits me and I miss, which is very annoying. They added the radar scan afterwards because they felt that the armor set needed something else, a little extra oomph. The weapon on page 2 is the SMG-32 Reprimand. This is the first submachine gun that has medium armor penetration at a pretty good damage. However, the capacity is fairly low. With decent trigger control, you are able to hit targets at a really good range with that medium penetrating shot. But there's something else you should know about the submachine gun. It is not one-handed. This is the first submachine gun that we've seen that needs 2 hands to use. It's basically a small assault rifle, which begs the question, why not just make it an assault rifle? I'm not sure. It definitely fits a niche, but I'm unsure what that niche is. It's alright. Page 3 gives us the light armor, the Inspector, which has the same unflinching passive, and looks pretty good actually. It also gives us the Plaz 15 Loyalist, which is a pistol version of the Purifier. The Purifier from the last page of Polar Patriots. So if you like that charge-up mechanic from the Purifier, and you want it in pistol form, there you go. At 125 damage, with armor penetrating, one-handed, charge-up, and explosive, this is a pretty good secondary weapon. Now, Truth Enforcers has that really good sidearm, but that submachine gun doesn't really fit any required need. The armor passive is okay. The only thing that's really good in this Warbond is the Halt. So if you find yourself really needing a good shotgun that can stun things, I mean, that's your only go-to. It's a pretty niche Warbond all in all. It's not bad, it's just not great. So you're gonna go in the B tier. Up next, we've got the Urban Legends Warbond. Now, this released at the same time that we got to fight in the city map for the first time during the Illuminate invasion of Super Earth. This Warbond gives us access to one of my favorite armor perks, Siege Ready, which increases reload speed of primary weapons by 30% and increases ammo capacity of all weapons by 20%, but does not affect weapon backpacks. Meaning that you're not getting more rounds for your autocannon or your recoilless rifle, but you are getting more for your machine guns and things like that. Plus, the reload speed is great if you enjoy shotguns that have the round reload. Something else that we saw for the first time in this Warbond is a dedicated melee weapon with the Stun Lance. It's basically a spear with a big taser prong on the end. It's light armor penetrating, one-handed, and stun. This thing was able to disable most enemies it hits temporarily, allowing you to move in and hit again and again. It is a very focused, direct frontal attack, which means that in a crowd, you can be overwhelmed. This page 1 also gave us the Directional Shield, which was an energy shield that you could pop up as shown here in the video and cover your friends with and still shoot through it if you have access to a one-handed weapon. Page 1, so far, off to a great start. Page 2 gives us access to one of my favorite sentries, the Flame Sentry. If you can put it at a good choke point or an intersection or something like that, this thing is an absolute powerhouse. Let the enemy come to it and it burns them all. It is so good. But really, page 2 is all about getting that flame sentry. Now, page 3 gives us the anti-tank emplacement. If you can have a good sightline to multiple big targets, this thing is going to dominate the battlefield. This thing takes down pretty much anything it hits in a few shots from a really good distance too. It has a really good capacity as well. I think it's 30 rounds. It's an emplacement, so it really is dependent on where you put it and how you use it. Still, this thing is a powerhouse. Each page of this Warbond is really useful, and plus that armor passive has got to be one of the best armor passives in the game, just because it affects every primary weapon and every support weapon that doesn't have a backpack. This thing is S tier. With Urban Legend being such a great Warbond, we were flying high. So when they announced the next one, we were all hoping it was going to be another powerhouse like that, right? Unfortunately, what we got was Servants of Freedom. This Warbond didn't really have much to it. Let me explain. Servants of Freedom gave us a unique armor passive called Integrating Explosives. The armor explodes 1.5 seconds after the wearer dies, increasing initial inventory and holding capacity for throwables by 2. You normally get 4 grenades. Boom, now you have 6 grenades. The problem is that you explode when you die. It's good if you want to take your enemy with you. You get surrounded by a group of voteless, or you get blindsided by a horde of Terminids, or what have you. Okay, so they're all dead. The downside, is that you might be chilling with your friends, running around doing missions with your Helldiver buddies, and then something kills you, you explode, and you take your friends with you. So it could easily rack up a high cost in the reinforcement budget. Now, a lot of folks thought this was great for the memes. It's definitely a meme armor to me. I don't think I've ever really used this outside of testing it. Now, the double-edged sickle is a different story altogether. Remember the sickle seen back in Cutting Edge? It was the assault rifle that fired bursts of laser energy. Well, the double-edged sickle is kind of like that, except it doesn't overheat. It has heat, and then if you look at it, it has light, medium, and heavy armor penetrating. Well, what does that mean? This thing will continue to fire. It starts off doing light armor pen. As it heats up, it moves up to medium armor pen. And then at the high end, when it overheats, where normally the weapons would force you to reload, this thing keeps shooting at heavy armor pen, which sounds great, except you're also on fire. It starts burning the user. Now, Helldivers can mitigate this by wearing the fire protection passive armor, or having their friends shoot them with stim pistols, but this thing was just dangerous to use. Now, it had its place. If you were in a pickle, you could easily hold the trigger down and stim and keep on shooting, but this thing is pretty unique for that. I just don't think it's... So if you don't mind a little bit of danger and some heat, this might be your weapon. Moving on to page 2. Page 2 gives us the GP20 Ultimatum. 3,000 damage, 1 capacity sidearm. It's an anti-tank, one-handed explosive. This thing fires a mini nuke warhead. Yes, mini nuke. Now, they have decreased the radius of the blast, but this is a single-shot anti-tank pistol. It's pretty niche, but it is pretty handy. You will just run out of ammo very quickly. But if ammo's not a problem, say you're using a supply backpack, for instance, this is pretty good for you. Provided you don't mind the relatively short range. Page 3 gets you another unique grenade called the Seeker, a grenade that's basically a drone. The grenade will actually sprout little wings like a little 4-rotor drone, and it'll fly around and find enemies. If there's no enemy around you, it'll actually stay near your Helldiver and orbit like a guard dog will. And then it'll stay there for 15-20 seconds until an enemy comes in range. It'll beep and head towards them and explode. All in all, it's pretty neat. The downside is that you don't have any kind of way to direct it or guide it towards the enemy. There were times I had enemies in front of me, and I would throw the Seeker, and it would read an enemy to my side and go that way instead. Still, pretty neat. The other thing on page 3 that's pretty neat is the Portable Hell Bomb. This is a backpack item that you call down, you're able to trigger it, and then you can run into enemies and then explode. It's actually pretty great. You are able, of course, to activate it, drop the backpack, and run to safety. The downside is that, well, your friends might hit the button for you.
fucking guy.
That was a good show.
What the?
What the hell?
You son of a bitch!
No, that was not me. You fucking hit me.
What the fuck?
What are you guys doing?
Not me.
You guys are goofing over there.
I didn't fucking do it.
That could have been anyone, honestly.
You accidentally
I
clicked
just
it?
saw Renzo look at his camera and fucking raise his eyebrows. Oh my god.
Honestly, this is great for laughs. Assuming you're not running low on reinforcements, that is. But this Warbond really wasn't anything that blew us away or shocked us in any way. The armor passive being kind of a joke, the ultimatum being semi-useful with its limited range, the double-edged sickle burning the user, the grenade not being reliable for targets. Honestly, it wasn't that great of a Warbond when it came out, but if you like the idea of a backpack nuke, go for it. But for me, it's got to go in the C tier. It's very niche, only a couple good things, maybe just the backpack. I don't think I've used the other things at all since I tested them. This Warbond was kind of a dud for a lot of people. Which brings us to our next one, Borderline Justice. You ever want to be a cowboy? You ever want to be a Helldiver cowboy? Here's your chance. Now, this has a really distinct flavor to it. If you enjoy that flavor, more power to you. Let's get into what it has though. It's got its own unique armor passive, that's for sure, called Gunslinger. Increased sidearm reload speed by 40%, sidearm draw holster speed increased by 50%, and sidearm recoil reduced by 70%. And now, a lot of folks kind of thought the idea of sidearm passives to be pretty cool, but in reality, like I've said before, a lot of folks rarely even use their sidearms. It just seems like Arrowhead made it Gunslinger because it's an Old West theme, which is fun. I don't think it's useful for the majority of gameplay though. Page 1 also gives you the Deadeye, the R6 Deadeye, which actually looks really cool. A lever action space gun with a scope. Now this marksman rifle is pretty great. Medium pen, 300 damage, but 8 capacity, round reload. It is really great for picking off medium targets at a good distance, but it's very niche. If you like marksman rifles and you like that cowboy theme, I say go for it. So page 2 will get us a new sidearm called the Laz 58 Talon. This is in the same vein as the sickle. It's a laser weapon that doesn't fire a beam. It's a single shot burst of laser. It's medium pen, one-handed, and heat. Now, the heat does dissipate rather quickly, but if you just rapidly fire this thing, it will overheat in 2 seconds flat. But if you fire a few shots, wait a second, fire a few shots, wait a second, this thing has basically unlimited ammo. With 200 damage and medium armor pen, it's actually a really solid sidearm. One of my favorites. Page 3 gets us a new throwable, the TED-63 Dynamite. It does decent damage, and it's medium armor pen. But it has a fuse time of 5 seconds, but you can extend the fuse time to 30 seconds or even 60 seconds. I don't know why you would need a 60-second fuse in this game, but there you go. Again, it just feels like Arrowhead put it in the game because it's a cowboy theme, which is great. You can have a cowboy flavor if you love that, but in gameplay terms, this isn't particularly useful in a fast-paced game like Helldivers 2. The other addition here is the hover pack here. Hover pack is great. It has a lot of uses. Gets you above the battlefield for a unique perspective, allowing you to do a lot of cool things. It definitely has its place. I don't know if the entire Warbond is good for just that. I think this is definitely a good choice if you like the cowboy theme and you like the more unique weapons like the Deadeye and the Talon, maybe the Dynamite. I will say that the blast on the Dynamite is pretty good. So I'm not sure where to stick this. I want to say it's A or B. Since it does have a couple good things in it, and you might like that cowboy theme, it goes into A. We're kind of run out of room here. But look, we're almost done, all right? Speaking of almost being done here, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I have a lot of fun making this content. If you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe down below. I hate begging for this, but I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on my channel here. So if you can go ahead and just help me out, you're a real one, all right? Up next, we have Masters of Ceremony. Now, this looked like a lot of fun. You've got these awesome dress uniform outfits, but when we get into it, it just kind of fell a little flat, honestly. The passive for the armor they gave us was called Reinforced Epaulets. For those of you that don't know, an epaulet is that decorative thing on the shoulders. It increases the reload speed of primary weapons by 30%, gives a wearer 50% chance to avoid grievous limb injury, and it increased melee damage by 50%. They did buff the armor passive. It's actually not bad now. But when it launched, it was kind of... Page 1 also gets you this marksman rifle called the R2 Amendment. Now, it's kind of like the Deadeye. It does decent damage, only it's light armor penetrating. It is very accurate, and it does have a built-in melee attack, which allows you to jab the enemy with your bayonet, which fits nicely with the armor passive, giving you more melee damage. Still, I believe the weapon kind of underperforms, seeing as it's light armor penetrating, and we already have marksman rifles that are medium pen. I think it's not really that great. Now, page 2 gives us the light armor version, the Parade Commander, looking snappy, and this gives us a sword. I love a good sword. This does give us a great tool to use in the game because the previous weapons were all a frontal stabbing motion aside from the, I think it was a hatchet that came out in the Superstore. This is a sort of X-cut that you could slash, and it will hit targets in front of your character and to the side. It's actually a really good secondary weapon if you want a melee option. And then you've got the third page giving you the One True Flag. Now, there are people that love the One True Flag. You can plant it, you can salute it, all these great things. However, not only that, but it's also a melee weapon. You can stab with it. It has a little longer reach than the stun lance, and it's also really good at waving around and raising morale with your troops. We also get the Pyrotech Grenade. It is incendiary and explosive. It looks like a fireworks sparkler. You throw it out, it whizzes, it flies around, it spits out sparks, and then explodes into a little fire effect on the ground. The sparks that fly out of it are actually heavy penetrating sparks. So you can throw this near your bigger targets, your tanks, your hulks. It can take out harvesters, the illuminates. It does good damage to Bile Titan legs, chargers. A lot of folks didn't know this at first. So it's deceptive in its damage. It's actually a pretty solid grenade choice. So all in all, Masters of Ceremony seemed like it was kind of a dud on release, but if you want a good solid melee weapon and a pretty good grenade, plus the One True Flag, I kind of like it. I'm going to put it in the A tier. It's definitely better than Polar Patriots, Webber Commandos, all of these, because of that pretty good grenade, the sword, and the One True Flag. I just love that flag so damn much. We got Force of Law next, which is a police theme build, which gives us some pretty good looking armors, with the jackboot being the light armor and the correct officer being the medium armor, with the passive being ballistic padding, which provides 25% resistance to chest damage, provides 25% resistance to explosive damage, and prevents all damage from bleeding if the chest hemorrhages. There was a recent change increasing the damage from a hemorrhaging chest effect, so this armor is actually pretty good now. The first page gets you the AR-32 pacifier. This is a pretty good looking weapon. It looks a lot more like modern ARs that we know and love today, and it's a medium penetrating stun weapon. That's right, this thing fires stun rounds. You can see the lightning bolt and the blue at the bottom of the magazine. This thing has a capacity of 40 and a pretty good fire rate. The damage is a little low. This thing is pretty much designed to be sprayed into enemies to stun them. Each bullet that hits and does damage will add a stacking stun effect. And you could focus on one target and just burn it down, but I think it's best if you try to use it to control a little mob of enemies. It's actually one of my favorite weapons. It also has a lot of good weapon customization options to do as well. So, a really solid choice there. Page 2 on this Warbond will get you the De-Escalator. This is a grenade launcher that fires a stunning, damaging arc grenade. It is one of the best weapons that Arrowhead has produced in this game so far to date. And I'm not just making this up. This thing is a beast. It takes 8 grenades to kill a Bile Titan. Now the magazine holds 6, so you can dump them out pretty fast. Load 2 more, it's a round reload weapon. Load 2 more, fire those, done. I actually have a video doing this. It's really effective. Plus, the explosion is a decent size, kills or heavily stuns just about every enemy in the game. I don't think it affects tanks or factory striders, things like that. But if you use this with an ammo backpack and you could run around just covering the map in the arc explosions, it's very effective. Just be careful you don't fire this too close to your teammates, unless they have the arc protection armor, that is. Anyways, I'm gushing about this weapon. It's just very, very good. The third page gets you the Urchin Grenade, a throwable that you can tell by the spikes will hit a target and stick to it, just like the Thermite Grenade. But instead of exploding and destroying the target, it will release pulses of stun energy, which will keep that target locked down. And if you throw it onto the ground, it'll actually pulse on that ground and keep enemies in the small area locked down as well. So it's great for hitting choke points, alleyways, bug breaches, things like that. Again, it does no damage, but it is pretty useful. The other thing we have from this on page 3 is the Guard Dog. It's a modified version of the arc thrower on the dog. And oh boy, let me tell you, this thing is pretty fun. You just need to be careful that you know where your teammates are and where the enemies are. Because like other guard dogs, it will just see the enemy nearby and shoot. And once that arc is fired, the arc does not care what it jumps to. It'll jump to the enemies and then your friends and kill them. And then you're over here killing all your friends. So don't do that. So oftentimes, if we're in a pretty hectic environment, I will actually recall the dog back to my back, deal with the threat, and then put it back out, just so I'm not killing my teammates. It's actually a really good guard dog to use. So we've got the really good stunning assault rifle. We have the amazing de-escalator. We have the really useful armor passive. We have the really good guard dog and the very useful urchin. Every page of this Warbond has very useful items on it. That's why I've got to put Force of Law up in the S tier. Why is there an extra cutting edge? Ignore that. And finally, we come to our more recent control group Warbond. So first of all, let's cover the armor. The armor passive is called the Adreno Defibrillator. Provides a one-time, short-lived resuscitation upon death, given that the Helldiver's body is still intact. Increases stim effect duration by 2 seconds. Provides 50% resistance to arc damage. So your stims last a bit longer. You do have arc damage resistance, and if you happen to die and you don't have your limbs blown off or whatever, you are able to be brought back to life for a short time. However, when this effect kicks in, your screen will turn black and white, and your health bar will start going down. You can extend this by stimming yourself more or having your teammates stim you. You could even climb into an exosuit and the suit will keep you alive. It's useful if you want to still do some fighting after you die, but you will eventually die. All in all, I think it's alright. I might get it for the arc resistance and the stim duration effects, not so much for the defibrillator effect. Oftentimes, if you're in a fight and you get killed and that effect kicks in, you're just killed again. Like you're being bullied by the automaton rockets or you're surrounded by terminids and you get brought back to life. Guess what? You're still in range of those rockets and you're still getting eaten by the terminids. That's not changing. So it just gives the enemy a longer time to bully you. Sometimes you just like, I just need to die and regroup. But this extends that time that you're being killed. Not always, but sometimes. Also on the first page, we have our gun with 7 barrels called the Variable. It does pretty good damage. It has a very good capacity and not a bad recoil at all. The downside is it's light armor penetrating. Now what this gun does very well is it has several fire modes that you can do. It has a good variable scope. It has a variable fire rate if you want to shoot slower or faster, there you go. But also has different fire modes. And what that does is it changes how many of the barrels get used and how much ammo you fire through those barrels. Like I said, there's 7 barrels. So the initial fire mode is a automatic fire mode that only uses one barrel at a time. So picture that the weapon has 7 barrels and each barrel has 7 bullets in it. What the initial firing mode does, it fires 1 round from each of the 7 barrels and then so on until it's empty. And then you reload it. The second fire mode, it fires 1 round from each of the 7 barrels all at once, like a mini shotgun blast. Pretty cool. You've combined an assault rifle and a shotgun. It's the last firing mode that's really funny. What it does is it fires every bullet from every barrel all at once. It also makes your Helldiver fly backwards, has a chance of either killing you outright because it explodes, or it breaks your arm, and you can minimize the knockback and potential arm break by going prone before you fire, but it still has a chance of exploding and killing you. It's a pretty unique weapon. I honestly really like it. Now, the support weapon is the Epoch, and if you see here, well, it's kind of dangerous. It's basically a heavy version of the Purifier, where you charge up the shot. If you charge it too long, it explodes and kills you. If you don't charge it long enough, it doesn't hardly do any damage. If you charge it just right, it will do a lot of damage to a good-sized area. The other problem with this weapon is it's fairly inaccurate at any decent range. I believe it needs to be tweaked. Maybe it will be, but they haven't changed anything yet. But this is the newest Warbond. If they made it more accurate, I think it'd be a lot better. But right now, having to charge it just right, it just doesn't feel like it's fun to use. It doesn't feel like it's useful. I'd rather take something else. Again, there's other support weapons that are more effective, so it's a little disappointing. Kind of feels bad. It gets points for being unique though. We'll see if any changes will help give it a more defined place. Moving on to page 2, we have one of my favorite things, the Laser Sentry. The Laser Sentry is a very welcome addition. I was saying for the longest time that we need another sentry, and a Laser Sentry would be sick. But as you see in that video there, it can catch fire and explode if it fires for too long. And it will fire for too long if there are too many enemies, or if an enemy has a shield like that Devastator does. So oftentimes you're being overrun, you throw down the sentry, and it will fire for a long time, then explode, which is unfortunate. But while it's down, it does an amazing amount of damage. It's a very welcome addition to the party. I'm a fan. Page 3 has something else that's very unique, the G31 Arc. It does good damage, it has a good penetration, and it has a good radius. It's explosive, and it's completely arc damage. Something else it doesn't say is that the grenade will explode, but it will explode 4 more times. So you can throw it into a group and it keeps exploding. Not only that, but it keeps jumping around as it explodes. So it will hit a pretty good area. The downside, of course, is that you have no control where it jumps to. It will stay in that general area, but it might jump away from the enemies, or it might jump towards you. So you gotta be careful where you throw it. But if you're going for a full arc build, this was the final component that we needed. Also on this final page, we have the Warp Pack, which as you can see, gives the Helldivers a fairly short range, but very useful teleportation effect. And you can actually kill yourself if you teleport too often. You can see that little purple wormhole effect, and if that stays orange and red and you teleport a second or third time and you don't let it cool down, you will die. It's a very useful tool for getting around quickly, avoiding damage. You can even teleport inside bunkers to loot the contents within. All in all, I think it's pretty cool. But honestly, I think the real winners here have got to be the variable, pretty decent assault rifle that can also kind of fire a shotgun blast, laser sentry, or arc grenade, or a jump pack that lets you teleport. Then this is your Warbond. So I think this has to go up in the A tier, because there are several really good things that you get from it. Even if you don't like the variable, you still get the laser sentry and the grenade. So there we have it, the S tier, which is just really good options across the board. A tier has several really good things inside of it. The B tier is okay, and the C tier definitely is kind of lackluster. So there you have it. There's my choices for what are the better options for your Warbonds when you join the fight from the Xbox community. Thank you so much for watching my video. Be sure to check out my content over here on Twitch. We're playing most nights. If this list helped you at all, go ahead and drop a like and a subscribe down below. Take care, stay frosty, and I'll catch you in the comments.